Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you're going to meet the great Clayton Neville. He's a legendary broadcaster here in Dallas. You're going to hear his journey next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
All right, every morning at 5 a.m., I begin my day by listening to the great Clayton Neville and his co-host Sybil Summers. They're on KLIF. It's a dominant station here in Dallas, and I just finally worked up the courage to invite Clayton into my studio. I want to hear your journey. Clayton Neville, thanks for coming on the show.
Jeff, appreciate it, and I also appreciate all the messages that you send to me on a weekly basis, just that you're listening, and you come through with a lot of big guests and things like that too, so it really is a team effort.
You're kind.
Yeah.
You're kind. Okay, tell me about the very early days of your broadcast career, because you grew up watching Dallas TV and radio.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that I was inspired to do this 8, maybe 9 years old, that young, but it started with sports and then eventually kind of progressed into news and sports, which I do both now. News seems to kind of dominate, but I also do some sports play-by-play that we'll talk about. Yeah. But that's where it started. The 2 names that pop out to me, Bill Schoening was the longtime Longhorns play-by-play sports broadcaster. He went on to be the San Antonio Spurs broadcaster and just recently stepped away from that. Craig Way was also another big guy as part of that. He stepped in after Bill Schoening. And then Matt Pinto was a guy who did the Mavericks and then moved on to L.A. after that. Well, I remember him calling me, I want to say it was like 1997. I would have been like 12 years old. Wow. He called me on the phone. I'd sent him an email or something, and he called me and just said, hey, I just wanted you to continue to pursue your dream and let you know that it could happen for you.
Wow.
And I remember that to this day, 33 years later.
I think that's amazing. And your first on-air job was in Austin.
It was, yeah, right out of college. I went to OU, and then I moved down to Austin. Mm-hmm. Something interesting about my class from OU is what 53% of my graduating class in 2007 was from the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Okay. That's always an interesting stat to throw out. Just kind of gives you perspective.
Incredible.
I came back home, and then I moved to Austin, where I was just a board op for the KISS FM music station there.
Wow.
Probably a little bit ahead of myself as far as living on my own and stuff. So I ended up in Dallas, working at a local sports complex, getting back on my feet with my parents. And then we moved out to East Texas, my wife and I did in 2010, where I took a news director and sports director job, and then the rest is history.
Sure, and that's a lot of pressure. I mean, as a young guy, being the news director for a station in East Texas, I mean, that's still a full-time job, more than a full-time job.
Yeah, I mean, news director was on the card, and that was the title for sure, but I was directing myself, basically, right? I mean, there were other people who were on the air, but for the most part, it was a one-man news department, which the decision to go there was maybe this will give you more experience than you would get as being a board op in Austin for a music station, right? Maybe you could actually get some chops in doing this. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, I went out there, I would go to a plane crash or, a house fire or something like that. I would get the audio, come back to the station, and then put it on the newscast at the top of the hour. Go back out, get something else, come back with it at the top of the hour.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, that I didn't realize until probably 10 years after that how much that actually made a difference for me. I mean, when I was there, I'd be like, man, this is a lot of work. I don't know if this is paying off. It absolutely did.
Well, and I love it that you paid your dues, because I think there's a lot of young people who think they're going to graduate college and go straight to, WBAP or KLIF, and you really need to learn before you get to a top 4 market.
Yeah, it's really invaluable, not only to get there, but once you do get there, too, because once I did get there, my first day at WBAP in 2017, and I still remember the name of the paramedic. His name was William Ahn. He was shot during a call in South Dallas, if you remember it. And then 2 days later, there was a school shooting over at Northlake College in Irving. Those were my first 3 days on the job.
Wow.
And it was, don't worry about putting your name on, your locker or anything like that. It's get out to this story right now.
Yeah.
And that makes a huge difference when thrown into the fire.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to have that experience, and you have to make those mistakes in smaller markets so that you don't make a mistake in the fourth largest market. Okay, so you've been at KLIF for many years, and you got promoted to morning show host. What year was that?
So that would have been probably 2023, maybe late 2022. I worked as a reporter and anchor for KLIF and WBAP from 2017 on. Now we still kind of do a little bit of everything.
Sure.
But I got that job after Dave and Amy left around 2023 or so. Did it by myself, and then with the producer Chad Dixon for a while, and then eventually Sybil came on board, and here we are now about a year later from that.
Absolutely. We're going to pull up your bio from the KLIF website so people can see this. When you look back on it, did it go by in a flash? I mean, can you believe you've been in news for 15 years?
No, not at all. And I'm from Dallas too, right? So KLIF and WBAP were the stations that I grew up listening to.
Yes.
When I got the job, it was kind of hard to believe, and it still is now, the fact that we've been doing this for 10 years. Both stations have kind of merged together in a sense. They're not one station, but the staff is one.
Yes.
Pretty cohesive unit. It's a much smaller staff than it used to be, which I think allows for more, one-on-one intimacy, I think, with the listener, because we're the ones talking to the newsmakers. We're not just relaying it. Like a lot of times we're the ones actually getting the sound and then putting it out there.
And you wake up at 2:30 in the morning. You begin your day with Westwood One on hundreds of stations. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So Westwood One is tied in with Cumulus, who's tied in with WBAP and KLIF. So through that partnership, which I started back in 2017, I was with the Westwood One News Network as their lead correspondent. At that time, it took me out to different news stories across the country. That department shut down during the COVID pandemic, and then it turned into being the lead correspondent for America in the Morning, which is the news magazine show. I think it's on 400 plus affiliates nationwide. It's on in Dallas as well. And what I do typically is just 2 90-second stories at the top and bottom of the hour, or whatever the top national story of the day is. Sometimes it'll relate to what I've done in Dallas on a particular day. Like, for example, the shooting at the ICE facility last week in Dallas. That was the top national story.
Yes.
And I was locking out from Dallas and things like that. So oftentimes it works, which is why they have me doing that. But other times it'll be politics or whatever the top national story is.
And you've had a chance to cover some really big stories. What are some of the highlights?
Yeah, so, dating back to the days where we traveled on the road with Westwood One, unfortunately, school shootings is something that when I first started in this industry and still to this day have continued to increase. So a lot of the big high profile stories that I've been to are the school shootings. The first assignment that I had as a national reporter was the Sutherland Springs shooting in Texas. And being from Dallas, I was the closest reporter to that scene. They sent me down there, and I was nervous driving down there. I had no idea what we were getting into. Got there at like 11:30 at night, drove straight up to the press conference, and then kind of just let the story take over from there. Speaking with different people. It was tragic. That was my first time to really, truly be reporting on a national tragedy.
Yes.
And it doesn't come lightly, right? I mean, like, you're in the moment and you're reporting, but when you go home and lay your head on the pillow, it's tough to sleep.
Yeah.
And that's not to be extremely dramatic, just the adrenaline and taking it all in.
And talking to parents, and you also covered Parkland, Florida. Tell us what that was like.
Yeah, that reminds me when I was driving to Parkland that night, we were trying to figure out how to get into a hotel. Where should I stay? It was one of those very developing things. By the time I got there, it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. We were going on the air at 4. So in 3 hours, I said, just forget the hotel. I'll just sleep in the parking lot. And I ended up sleeping in the parking lot outside of the school where that happened.
Wow.
And I'll never forget that, just how heavy that was in that moment. But it allowed us to tell that story in a really compelling way, because I literally woke up with people waking up to those emotions.
Well, you do such a great job telling stories with compassion. It's not just a story. I mean, lives were lost, and you're talking to grieving parents, and it takes I think a special skill to be present and communicate with the viewer, but also relate to the parent.
Yeah, I think real life can get lost in news sometimes, just because it's one after the other. 30 seconds on to the next 30-second story, on to the next 30-second.
Yes.
Well, if you can capture some of that real emotion, I mean, the 30-second window is not going to change in radio, but you can use that 30 seconds and really capture somebody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've got some pictures that I pulled from your Facebook page. Let's go ahead and pull up these. So Edward R. Murrow, it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, and the cool thing about that is that was a team award. That was with the WBAP KLIF news team. It's a combined news team, both stations. That's Eric. He's now still working in the market. And I think there were 3 or 4 of us who were on that award. And it was really neat, to have a team to be able to share all the awards that you won with, because they are team efforts, right? It doesn't just come. It's the anchor, it's the producer, and then it's the reporter as well.
Outstanding. Let's pull up another picture. Okay, you're also a play-by-play guy.
Yeah, that's my pride and joy too. I love doing that. Like we said, that's kind of where the passion started. Tarleton State called a few years ago when I was in East Texas. We were doing play-by-play all the time. I called a football state championship with the Mineola Yellow Jackets at AT&T Stadium.
Wow.
Some of the smaller schools. And then when I got here, I was just filling in play-by-play here and there in East Texas when they needed me. Well, Tarleton State called. That program has put a lot of money, and that university has put a lot of money into growth. So they reached out to the Metroplex to bring some broadcasters in, and I've been doing the women's basketball team. This will be the 3rd season coming in. It's fun to actually see growth and investments paying off at the national level, and we're seeing that with that school out of Stephenville. That's pretty fun.
Let's go to the next picture. This is the head of the ATF here in Dallas, I believe.
Yeah, that was several years ago. He came by. I think he was at a conference in Las Colinas. And that's one of the things that I love the most, is being able to sit down with those newsmakers. Having them on the phone is great, but being able to sit down one-on-one in a room and use it for both the news sound bites and then the interview itself, I have a lot of passion in that too. The one-on-one interviews are fun. That's one of my favorite parts of the job.
And a final picture. Okay, there's Sybil. And you guys got paired how long ago?
So that was, I want to say it was about a year ago now. It seemed like she filled in for a while when we had an opening in that job. I think it was maybe a month or 2 that she filled in here and there. So we kind of built some chemistry there. And then she started about a year ago, and it's been great since. Yeah. I think since Sybil's come in, we've been able to balance news and fun.
Yeah.
And that's what I like.
You have such great rapport. I can't imagine waking up without listening to Clayton and Sybil. Let's talk more about play-by-play, because I think the talent that it takes to read a news story is different than doing play-by-play.
Yeah, it is. And I think a lot of times I'll say, if you can do sports, you can probably do news. If you can do news, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can do sports.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's just being able to carry a broadcast. Yeah. Being able to start from the very beginning with the pregame show, describing what you see all the way to the end and wrapping it up with thanking sponsors in the meantime. It's kind of the same thing for me as like a news show would be. And then it's also the same as just describing what you see in reporting. To me, it's kind of the same skill. It's just portrayed in a different way.
And what kind of prep goes into a play-by-play?
I think the most prep would just be making sure that you have the names right. That's the biggest part of the preparation, obviously, and then understanding what's at stake in the game. Otherwise, for me, it's just being able to escape what else is going on and get into the game, putting myself into the game. And that's not easy always, like blocking out everything else. Once you're in the game, the play-by-play guy's job is to describe what they're seeing. Yeah. The preparation for me just comes in making sure you don't screw up anybody's name.
And it's theater of the mind, so it's different than doing a television broadcast. It's you're describing action on a court, and you have to be vivid in your description.
Yeah, and that's kind of been my deal too. People have asked me before, have you ever wanted to do TV? Have you done TV? And I really haven't dipped into it that much. And I think that's the reason why, is that radio allows for more of the descriptive language and that kind of thing. And that's more of my deal than even the broadcasting, is just the descriptive relaying of the message.
Yeah. What, as you look into your crystal ball in the future, what do you see with the morning show? What do you see with Westwood One? Where's Clayton going?
Well, I don't know. I think just continuing to tell the story would be the number one thing. So whichever avenue that provides, then there's a bunch of them. That's the deal with this industry right now, is you have to wear multiple hats, right? Like it or not, it's not the way it used to be. That's the way it is now. I mean, my bread and butter is in news and in sports. Like, it's both. I wouldn't be able to pick one or the other right now just because of the dynamics of the industry. There used to be back in the day times where you would just be a news broadcaster and that was it. You wouldn't have time for anything else. Well, that's not the world we live in anymore. So I love it though. I mean, I'm able to carry out both of my passions. It's just busy.
Okay, and he's a great family man, 4 kids.
Yeah.
And a lovely bride. How long have you guys been married?
So we were married in 2010. I've been married almost 16 years now, 4 kids, live in Saxe.
And she's not in broadcasting.
Not in broadcasting, no. She's in education. Yeah.
She probably has to be pretty understanding about the hours that you keep.
Yeah, absolutely. But that started in 2010. I mean, that started from the beginning. The East Texas days, I was out broadcasting fishing tournaments and volleyball games and all kinds of news stories. So, yeah, it comes with the territory.
Outstanding. You've been an amazing guest. We're going to end with his Facebook page, which is Clayton Neville Radio. Let's put that up on the screen. Thank you so much, Clayton, for sharing your journey with us.
Jeff, appreciate it. Thanks.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.